welcome everybody to another lesson with Nikola Stoyshin. It's really an honor and a privilege to be helping out one of my top supporters and just an amazing supporter of chess in general. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I don't have quite as much time today, so we'll jump right in. Nikola, thanks again for everything you do. I'm excited for the session. How are you? How are you feeling this evening?
Hey, Danya, thank you very much. It's first of all, the pleasure is all mine. It's thank you for doing this. I think yesterday's session was
Sorry,
very
Nikola,
great. No worries, take your
give me
time.
1 second. I need to connect my headsets to charging
No
port.
problem. No problem. I can relate
Now
there.
I can hear you now. Sorry about that.
No, that's cool. Hey, Drunk Pyro, it's very good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so basically, hey, Goran Zaric, it's very good to see you. Anyway, so I had a very good time, and I'm gonna give a shout out to your chat because they had a rather interesting conversation of routing protocols in yesterday that I saw when I watched the VOD. Anyway, so that's I don't usually get to compare my professional life into my chess life, but that was fun to read. So.
Fantastic. All right. Well, basically, I'm thinking of doing the same thing we did yesterday, which is just to start with sort of a warm up where we go through a couple problems, discuss some tactical themes, and then do some openings. So without further ado, we have the analysis board here. So let's actually start with this position, which combines kind of conceptual theme and a tactical theme. It's from an old game by Frank James Marshall and Yefim Bogolubov, two sort of early 20th century masters, and it's black to play. Your task sort of in this position is to find the best move. Black is sort of winning, but only if he understands kind of the key concept and finds an only move here.
Okay, so black is winning, black is a pawn down, black has a bishop that's a little bit on the interesting side. It's not extremely well placed. Actually, it is very well placed. But if we put the queens off the board and manage to get the knight, then white is going to win. Okay, so what is the best move here? We actually have a very direct threat. Direct threat is this bishop and the threat on g2, and this white king is not very well placed. In other words, it's not protected by pawns. So one candidate move is queen a4, threatening the check on a2, and all sorts of interesting stuff. So that would be, and it also prevents white from activating the knight on b3. So I kind of like that move for now.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Penguin,
the move.
Thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate it, Andrew. 709. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, so queen a4, Nikola, exactly. That's great thinking. Black is down a pawn, so you have to use that as a clue, which tells you I need to operate with a sense of urgency and avoid the queen trade.
Yeah.
As you pointed out, this is a big threat. If white covers it with queen d2, you continue the infiltration. How would you do that?
Okay, that's a very good question. We don't want to continue the infiltration. We need to further activate the bishop is already as active as gonna get.
Exactly.
All right, so we can play something on the lines of queen a1 or queen a1.
That's
is
exactly
the best
right.
move.
And there's just a million threats here. White cannot hold things together.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if white tries queen b2, then you do the same thing just through queen d1. So Marshall tries to come at it from another angle and involve his knight in the defense. He goes knight c4 in the game. And this is sort of critical position number 2, black to play.
Okay, and obviously queen a2 check. It's bishop. It's a knight b2.
Yeah, sorry, give me one moment. For some reason, my chat can't see the screen. That's odd.
No problem. Take your time. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay, now we're good. Yep, continue.
Right. Very good. So queen a2, queen b2, knight b2. Then we can put queen on b1, and then we have a double threat of queen e4 and queen h1. So that's one option. Another is to follow the motive after queen b2, and we can play queen d1, which is still a very strong move.
So this is the move you're looking.
But I think I kind of like that better. Yes, queen a2.
So there's a couple of things to understand. One is this notion that when you're playing moves, let's say in a certain direction, right? You're looking at white's king. That's what you're trying to do. It's very easy to lose track of other tactical features, and it's important to try to avoid that. So here in particular, when white plays knight c4, out of the corner of your eye, you need to also pay attention to the fact that this knight is essentially undefended, right? It's the bishop is making contact with the knight, so you have to also factor that into your considerations. So if you're considering queen a2, if white covers with the queen, there's something a lot simpler than moving the queen to b1.
No, I was thinking knight b2, not queen d2.
Oh, knight b2. Sorry, I misheard.
Yeah.
So knight b2.
Queen c4. This is easy. Queen c4, and we're winning.
Right. Yeah. That's what I thought. So the problem with queen a2 actually is maybe knight d2. And sorry if I didn't hear what you were saying.
No. Yeah. No, and this is exactly right. That basically prevents further infiltration by the white queen, and that doesn't work.
And
all right. So we need to
sort of exactly.
Yeah. So we need to play. So the alternative option is to it's to basically play queen d1.
Okay, so queen d1 is interesting, but I think there is a very sudden and very effective counter chance for white, which comes back to something we talked about yesterday, and this is part of the reason I chose this problem. Remember that you had that rook infiltration, and all of a sudden, I think it was black who mounted counterplay against white's king. Okay. You kind of have to do the same here, where you have to say, okay, I'm going to take a second and try to figure out if my own king is relatively safe. And if you look at that, you might see that white actually has a very, very strong sacrificial idea that gets him.
Which is knight d6 with a check.
And this gets messy, right? So in the context of a real game, I would actually stop calculating here, and I would say, well, at the very least, it looks like it might be perpetual. The bishop might be hanging in some lines. So I'm going to go back to this position, and I'm going to try to rethink what I'm doing here. And it's crucial to avoid the tunnel vision and to look at every angle of the position. If you do that, you'll immediately see that there's a much more convincing way to win.
Okay, so let me think. Queen d1 and enable queen d6. Queen a2 enables knight d2, and that's a problem. That the knight d6 is definite threat, but we can play, say, something like queen a6, which basically stops that threat. So that's now a pretty good move.
You're close, but pay attention to the queen on c3. It's undefended.
The best move here is to play queen c6, and that's game over.
Exactly. So this creates a pin. Very hard, and Marshall missed it. Not that he could have done anything, but these moves are the hardest to spot. And in order to prevent blind spots, but it's totally understandable, right? In order to prevent the blind spots, you have to be ready to kind of switch completely the direction of your play. You play queen a4 in order to infiltrate, but now you realize, okay, well, the knight and the queen are on the same file. Both pieces are undefended, so I need to start looking for pins, and queen c6 picks off a piece.
No, and very frankly, this is my frequent problem in games. I have a problem with this immediate redirection of the plans when to take advantage of a sudden opportunity. That has been self-identified as a problem.
Totally makes sense. That's just objectively a hard thing to do, but hopefully this is some decent practice and awakening that. Let's do one more. This is a challenging problem. And this problem is all about the art of observation. So it's white to move. When I say observation, what you want to do in many positions is sort of dream. You want to be a dreamer and say, in an ideal scenario, what would be the tactical ideas that I might potentially be able to execute? And often that, I think, is the best definition of creativity. It's the ability to, it's not always consisting of identifying a sudden idea. Like the tactical idea itself might be relatively obvious, but it's this bridge between finding an idea that might seem completely unrealistic and then actually finding a way to accomplish it.
Yeah, I understand completely. Just a quick shout out to Mahmoud El Nakib 21. Thank you for the follow, and thank you for Puccino for the host. And Hedgehog, it's good to see you. And my Indo Queen 1750, thank you for joining here. Hello, Halvard. It's very good to see you here. Thank you, guys. I'm having a second session with Danya tonight. Adoption match is on Sunday at noon New York time. So Frappuccino to answer your question. Square. Okay, so there are a couple of motives here. Black has Lucia 886. Thank you for the follow. Very greatly appreciated. Thank you. So there is this pawn on d6 that's questionable. It's obviously now overprotected, and it's not immediately obvious how we can add a third attacker. And then we have the pawn on f7, which is also pinned. So I'm seeing those two motives in the position. Okay, what else am I seeing? Thank you, GeForce 921 for the follow. How can White here improve his position? Okay, let me think for a second. Okay, we can do something along the lines of, a pawn push on h5, which I surmise would be too slow.
So this is a very decent move, right? And this keeps an advantage. And in the absence of the solution, this would actually probably be the second best move. This keeps an edge and pressure. Yeah. But in terms of and maybe you just pointed this out. Sorry, I got a little waylaid by a message. So in terms of identifying tactical features, do you notice it's hard for me to frame this in the right way. But if there was no pawn on b7, for example, there's a certain sequence of moves here that might lead. It is a pattern that exists with the bishop on g7. It turns out the black's back rank is not actually fully resolved. And what do I mean by that?
Well, we have a sequence of events. Here is the following sequence of events. If we are able to give a check with something on the back rank, the only move black has is bishop f8, and then bishop h6
precisely
is threatens mate.
And that might be unstoppable, as it often is in these situations. So that's essentially the dream. Now, can you turn that dream into reality is the question.
All right. So so basically the sequence of events here is, and you gave me, I think, enough hints that I see where this is going. If the pawn on b7 didn't exist, then there is a resource of queen c6. Okay, so the way to make that pawn on b7 disappear is to play bishop a6.
Bingo.
Yeah.
B takes a6.
And now queen c6.
Right, queen c6. You sacrifice an entire queen.
Yeah, and I'm giving a check on b8, and after that I'm playing rook h6, and those two heavy pieces, there are no checks and there is no defense.
Right. Now, you would want to be careful if the black pawn were to be on d5 here. What resource would black then have?
Queen c6, queen d6. Sorry.
Exactly. So you would want to watch for that, especially when you sacrifice a large amount of material. Always keep in the back of your mind that your opponent can give some of it back, and still be up a lot. A lot of people forget that they sack a queen and their opponent sacks back a rook, and they say, yes, I won a rook, but hey, he sacrificed a queen to begin with. So you want to be careful about that. But here specifically, that all works out. One last thing, if black tries knight e7 here, intermediate move to remove the knight from the crosshairs of the queen, what can white then do here?
Well, he can take on b7, which is probably still winning.
Yes, that's all you have to do, actually.
I don't see anything better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and there isn't anything, and it comes back to what we talked about yesterday. This is so overwhelming, it forces the queen trade. And now you have sort of a very clear plan of just pushing your pawn forward.
Yes. Yep.
And there's no way to stop that.
Yes, and that knight is basically dominated the bishop by b7.
That kind of creativity, I don't think I can hear you. Let me see. One moment, Nikola. Sorry about all the technical issues.
No worries. It's perfectly fine.
Let me reset my headset and see if it works. One moment. Okay, can you try saying something?
1 2 3 1 2 3.
Now I can hear you.
Yep, wonderful.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. So so the key is sort of this ideation almost. I'm always paying attention to potential tactical features, even if they might seem completely unrealizable.
And I'll be very honest with you, if you didn't give me all these hints, I would, the motive of a bank rank would, in that position is far from obvious.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree completely. But this is a bit of an extreme example. In most cases, you wouldn't have to think in such a far-fetched manner, but it still is important to out of the corner of your eye, if there's a rook on b1, if this idea even exists, to remind yourself, well, this idea exists, let me look for some tactics in certain positions.
No, that's beautiful. Thanks. Thank you, Daniel. Frantic Beagle, thank you for the follow.
So let's transition on to some opening training.
Okay.
And Jay Schreier asked, would rook b7 be bad? Yeah, so rook b7, it opens the b file, but you don't have any instrument to deliver a back rank check with. By the same token, queen c6, of course, like I can take with a queen or I can take with a pawn, and well, the square is defended, so you don't have that anymore. Good question. Okay, so let's transition to openings, and as we did yesterday, there are several ways we can play this. We can do a little bit of review of some of the stuff, or we can, if you feel relatively comfortable, we can jump into some new stuff. Did you have something in mind in that direction, Nikola?
Yeah. I would, I'm going to leave it to you. There is a line in Gioco Piano that Anna frequently plays that we may want to take a quick look. And I was able to review the lines we looked in Scandinavian knight f6 and Marozzi bind, and I think I'm comfortable there. I don't think we need to dwell and review it. There is this line that Anna frequently plays that's basically e4, e5, knight f3.
Yeah, you're welcome to make moves on the board, by the way.
Okay, yeah, let me do that. It's this that I've seen it played more than once. Now it's knight c4, knight f6, and surprisingly enough, she does play knight g5, but I think I know what to do there. I'll play bishop d3 retreat, and then I can handle that position very handily. So, but she played this line fairly frequently, and this is something that I would love us if we can today delve into it, because I felt that that would be something I'm somewhat uncomfortable with.
So you're in you as black, right?
And so yes, she plays this as a white, and I'm black.
Got it. Yeah,
we can flip the board if we need to.
Sure. Yeah, I'll flip the board here.
Okay.
So a4, yeah, that's a very popular line recently, and I've looked into it a little bit. Let's develop sort of a sequence of moves here. Now, the one thing to point out is that in the Italian in general, there's just a lot of different move orders. So we will look at the actual theory, but it also is worthwhile to develop a sequence of moves that you would normally play, because white can do a million things first. He can play knight bd2 first, or b4 first, or castle first, bishop b3 first, and there's a million permutations of this stuff. So we'll put the emphasis on the actual ideas here very firmly.
Honestly, I'm sorry to be rude and interrupt. The question here for me, and this question in any opening I play, is not so much for me to remember the moves as if to understand the logic of the position, which is what we did so wonderfully yesterday. So I was kind of hoping for something similar today, if that's okay.
Certainly, with you. That's exactly what I was going to aim for. In order to probe that logic, let's begin with a quick assessment of the idea of a4. So a4 is a move that appeared on the scene. It's been around for a while, but it really gained popularity in the last couple of years with good players. Yep. And white is simply grabbing space on the queen side and preventing b5 and preparing b4. b4 is not so much a huge threat, so it's a positional line. White wants to set the tone, sow the seeds for queenside pressure, and black has to just acknowledge that, but it's not like there's that much that you have to do against it, other than sort of the normal Italian moves, and try to develop play on the king side quickly in order to be able to counteract that. So let's delve into how this actually works out. As far as I know, black can start with bishop a7, or black can start with d6. D6 might be sort of the pure Italian way to play. And white usually castles here. Let's take a look at if white goes b4 immediately. So as a rule, you always go bishop a7, right? You almost never go bishop b6 because that walks into potentially a5.
Yeah.
And so castles, I think, will basically transpose into the main line, which we'll look at through the move order castles. The only line I can see that people try independently is queen b3. But this does very little. It's just a paper tiger. You castle. And if the queen is ever put on b3, the huge drawback of that is that if white plays b5, what do you now have? Like
I have knight
permanently.
a5.
You have knight a5 rooting out the bishop, and that is squarely in Black's benefit.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that we will take this opportunity to discuss, and actually we'll do that through the main move order, is how to react against the move bishop g5. That's going to be one of those conceptual questions whose proper solution is going to give you a roadmap, because bishop g5 can be played in a variety of different positions, and you want to have sort of one consistent way of handling it. And what I mean by that is that black has to decide whether he's going to play h6 g5. Yep. And if you do that, then you have to be aware that there exists the sacrifice knight takes g5, yep. Which sometimes is good, is sometimes very bad, and sometimes leads to a draw. So we'll try to very clearly formulate principles for how to evaluate whether that is indeed a good sacrifice. Okay, right. So let's say that Anna will probably castle either here or on the previous move. So most people castle on the previous move to retain some sort of flexibility. And here you can go bishop a7 or castle. And let me see. So bishop a7 is actually how most people play it, which again retains flexibility, takes the sting out of b4. Okay. So this position is very likely to arise on the board. Now, by my count, there's at least 4 moves that top GMs have played, which speaks to sort of how slithery this position is. There's rook e1, there's knight bd2, knight a3, which is another sort of positive byproduct of playing a4. There's h3, bishop e3. So all of these Italian moves, as I said, can be interchanged. Let's start with a move b4, which is actually more rare than I expected it to be. So I guess it's just not dangerous. Why is it not dangerous? Let's figure that out. It has been played by the likes of Vishy Anand, but it's not very popular. So you castle. Okay. And the main move here is knight bd2. So I guess that the point is, if white goes b5, the reason that you're not scared of this expansion is because it does more harm than good.
I actually think I know the answer to your question. We want this knight to. I actually studied a little bit of this position. Mm-hmm. We want this knight on c6 on the queen side, as it is.
Exactly.
So it's chasing us where we want to go.
Exactly right. But there is just one thing to point out here, which is very, very important. In this position, if you go knight e7, mm-hmm. you have created tension down the a file, which is very unwelcome and which can be exploited by playing bishop e3.
Yeah, I can't play knight e7 immediately.
Right, so you have to play b6 and bury your bishop alive. But in this position, there is a very important tactic that this you kind of have to remember. But once I've pointed this out, it should be, you'll spot it pretty fast, I think.
Okay.
So what am I talking about here?
All right. Hey, Quart Gold, thank you for continuing the gift sub. That's very greatly appreciated. And Kaigress and Matt Quick Chess. And no, not unknown. Good question to me. I'm a 2000 player facing a 2600 Grandmaster during the day after tomorrow, and I'm desperate for any help I can get. I think that's the best answer to give. All right, so what is the tactics here? The tactics here is that we can take on f2 and grab the rook.
Very good. And importantly, it would not be good for black were it not for the fact that the b1 knight is hanging.
Yeah.
So if bc take the knight and bishop b2, you still take the knight, because if you move the rook, then when the smoke clears, you then maneuver your knight to g6. You're up a pawn.
Yep.
And you are getting your knight where it wants to go. So black is just up a pawn for no compensation. This is very, very important. This is what makes the line tick. So for that reason, white abandons the entire concept of b4 because it's essentially futile if you can't play b5. You're just sort of grasping at straws. And so for that reason, after b4 castles, most people in this position do go back to sort of the main developmental strategy, and go knight bd2, which is a move, of course, you're familiar that white is also potentially trying to get his knight to b3 in the conventional Italian execution.
Yeah.
It sounds like somebody's killing someone in Italy, but yeah.
we got it.
Yeah. So here I would say there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I think knight e7 is the best option. Anand against Topalov in 2019. Let's just follow that game as a sampling of what could happen in a classical game. H3 was played by Vichy, almost always played at some point in the Italian. And Topalov actually played a move I really like, which is one of the positive byproduct of going knight e7 is that in addition to going knight g6, you can start with a move c6.
Yep.
Which, of course, potentially prepares d5. I want to stress that you don't necessarily have to rush with d5. In fact, the game continued rook e1, discouraging black from playing d5. Now Topalov played knight g6, and Anand played d4, which, as often happens in the Italian, transposes to a position. Now we have 13 games from this position, most of them GM games. Carlsen, Karyakin, among other things, so pretty weak players. Carlsen, Karyakin in the World Championship, actually. And Karyakin actually went wrong here. He took on d4, which is a move that you seldom want to play. Because it yields central control to white. Instead, you want to go rook e8 here. Rook e8 keeps the tension, and you prepare to take on d4 in a version that is convenient for black.
Yeah, and at some point, I think you want to contest play bishop e6 without and taking on e6. Okay.
So bishop e6. So here, there's many different moves. Bishop e6 is indeed. Bishop drops back to d3 to lend support to this pawn, but still bishop e6 is just a good development move.
Okay.
And we're following sort of a correspondence game from 2014. The position is equal. You want to go knight f4. One of black's other ideas is then to connect also the rooks with queen c7 and rook d8, and eventually you're sort of preparing to play d5. Like that's the ultimate goal of black's strategy. You also want to remember if white goes knight f1 here, I'm just going to check this really quickly.
Sure.
With the computer to make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, so if he goes knight f1, he has a relinquished control over the e4 square, so you can already go d5. And the complications seem very intimidating, but the reality is they're pretty easy to decode, because after de, you go knight takes e4, and you've got a tremendous position.
Yeah, actually, I contested this position, and one advantage of playing these adoption matches is that by the time you have played 10 of them, you actually have 100 very strong games. I contested similar position with Karina Abratsumova. And it was, I'm actually, after you and I are done, and I'm going to continue throwing, I'm going to show that game to the community, because I thought it was actually a very well played game.
Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic. So you have a pretty good handle. I can tell you have a pretty good handle on some of the ideas here. So that's sort of why b4. You can see the move b4 is just not. It doesn't quite achieve the desired effect. It just sort of grabs space, but black is not scared when white does that, which brings us to some of the more modern attempts to play this position. Let me see if Anna has had this position on the board in one of her games. Let's see how she has handled this position.
Okay, thank you.
LM and Muzychuk. Yeah, so she has. Let's see.
Oh, Quart Gold, they're not 2,600 plus players, they're 2,700 plus players. So they're very weak.
So she has played, let's see. She has played 4 different moves. She has not played b4. Let's begin with a modern attempt, knight a3. Now, there's several ideas here. Knight c2 is one of them, and then that knight can maneuver itself to e3. So it's sort of a creative way, when you think about it, to accomplish the typical maneuver knight bd2, knight f1, knight e3, which is kind of, the knight gets in the way of some of the other pieces. This is one way to avoid the knight getting in the way of the other pieces.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now it's a good idea to go h6, right, to stop bishop g5.
Okay.
But we will talk about what you do if you kind of quote-unquote accidentally allow bishop g5, which is not all that bad, but I think this is safer. Knight c2, you castle, and then bishop e3. So this was tried by Anna once. This is sort of one of the main lines. And her opponent responded with bishop e6. But I think that the cool guys here, including, let me see. So what do the sort of people in the know do? Yeah, so Pavel Elyanov, I think the best is to take on e3. Okay, I think the best is to discharge. So usually you meet bishop e3 with f8. Now remember that after f takes e3, this might look intimidating because white gets the f file, but that is just not scary. Remember this.
Yeah.
You can go knight e7, you put the knight on g6, and then you have the plan of preparing c6 and d5.
Yep.
And if anything, white is the one struggling for equality. Nobody of the 14 people who have this position has played fe.
The problem with here is that pawn on e4 is weak and it's not that easily defended with a knight on on f3 and c2. Yeah.
In addition, this knight on c2, like what is it doing if you've taken with a pawn? Like you might as well get the most bang for your buck and take with a knight.
Yeah.
And now, no need to reinvent the wheel. Knight e7 is possible here, but I like to try bishop e6, which has been the choice of some very strong players, including Elyanov, who is sort of a specialist in these positions. Now, normally what white does, we're following the game Adams against Elyanov from 2017, is take c6. And now Adams played a5, continuing to expand on the queen side, a move in the same fashion as b4. Both players in this position who have reached it have played d5. Completely reasonable move. But I honestly, when I look at this position and I run it through the engine at a high depth, it doesn't see really a point in going d5 so fast, and I don't either, to be honest. I think the move queen d7 is very sensible and safe, and you have a very simple plan here. White can end up being worse. You want to basically go, first of all, white doesn't really have a good plan. So, and again, as you pointed out, Nikola, d4 never works because it weakens the pawn.
Yep.
Let's say that white goes b4 and continues to expand. Well, one of your top ideas is just to double in the f file, potentially get this knight to f4 and get the other knight to g6, and you actually start attacking.
Yeah.
So you basically, well, what do you have to be careful about? You have to be careful that if you play knight e7, you might accidentally allow d4. So let's say that white goes queen c2 here, okay? Reinforcing preemptively that e4 pawn, you double. And if white goes d4, then it's a paper tiger. It doesn't do anything. You go knight h5. Black is already almost winning, believe it or not, because there's a huge threat of what? What is it that black is threatening here exactly?
There is always a motive of exchange sacrifice.
Oh, yeah. And juicy. Yeah. And also, just like knight f4, accumulating pieces, black has a huge attack here. There's just very little to analyze. I'm just going to put minus plus. Yeah. So that's really the lay of the land. If white doesn't take on e6, if white goes b4 in this position, that is also possible, I suppose. Just keeping the tension. But there's a very clear drawback of not taking on e6, which I think deters people, which is that now black can make a very thematic breakthrough. What move specifically is now possible? Well, you can play knight e7 here. Honestly, Nikola, I think for you, keeping things simple with knight e7 is the best.
Yeah,
d5 is possible. Sorry, go ahead.
There is the thematic breakthrough is d5.
Right, and I want to make the point from analyzing the Italian for years, I actually think it's overrated in most cases. It's very dangerous.
Okay.
And d5 is only good in certain cases, and it's very easy to underestimate the extent to which black weakens his position.
Okay.
And in this particular instance, because you've already traded some pieces, this equalizes pretty easily, and white has nothing better than to simply trade off. In fact, the computer gives zeros, but I think black is, from a human perspective, slightly for choice. So I'm going to put d5 as an interesting move for when you review this VOD, just so you can kind of have the memory marker. I will say this is good in this position, but you have to be extremely careful about playing d5 prematurely, as it puts a big strain on the position, particularly e5 pawn. Okay. Instead, I think knight e7 followed by knight g6. Now, if he goes queen b3, how will you handle this situation? Thanks for the bits, queen. And this is, again, we've already seen this move. It's a very typical way to buttress that e6 bishop.
Okay, we can play queen d7.
Bingo. And again, we get the similar type of position. Black is equalizing easily.
Yeah.
So that's how we handle attempt number one, the move knight a3. You can see that while these moves are popular, it's people quite often grasping at straws. And this is really not that dangerous. Now, Anna's second attempt in 2016, which led to victory, so this move needs to be taken seriously, is the move bishop g5 here.
Okay.
And one of the key rules to sort of remember is that before you have castled, you almost always meet this with h6 g5. Okay. The reason being, obviously, with the king still on e8, knight takes g5 is really just not as effective as it normally would be. And even when you castle, you can often do this, but here it really is nothing. Takes, rook g8, immediately making contact with the bishop. And if h4, then actually one of the funny things that black can do is just go queen d7, which looks complicated, but after bishop f6, there is a nice but relatively prosaic combination here, black to play.
Oh, yeah.
Try to spot it.
Yeah, rook g2.
Exactly. Rook g2, queen h3, and now what's the follow-up?
Well, if I'm playing an adoption match, I've just won. Queen g2.
Yeah. But bishop g4 is crushing on the spot, of course, as well. But you're exactly right. Don't forget that. And it seems you have that in mind. So that is not dangerous. For that reason, bishop g3 is the move. And generally, because the bishop is so poorly placed on g3, black is completely fine in these positions, provided that we can formulate a couple of good moves. Now, Anna's opponent, Kremlin, castled here, which I really don't like. I think there's no need to castle to rush this. I think it's much better to remain flexible and follow an idiot named Fabiano Caruana. I know that's a pretty unwise thing to do, who played knight e7 here. And I really think that's the best move.
Okay.
Caruana against Mamedov 2016, a game that was won by Caruana. Now, there is only one move here that we have to be wary about. Otherwise, we go knight g6 and we're in fantastic shape. What is that move that we always have to consider when we play knight e7?
We need to worry about queen b3.
Not really. Here, I think you can probably already castle. Yeah, here you can just castle.
Okay. And
that queen is very misplaced. But knight e7 lessens black's control over e5, so black can try to exploit that.
Yeah, you're thinking about d4.
And so was Mamedov, who played this move. That is just going to be very standard. Otherwise, white's just going to be much worse. White is still worse, but here you have to be super accurate. Knight takes e4. And that, of course, is the drawback of going d4 before knight bd2. Yep. Now, Mamedov, if DE, very standard response to DE to keep the center closed. What move?
d5.
d5, then you can take, go bishop g4. Many things black can do. Black is much better here.
Yeah.
So for that reason, Mamedov played knight bd2, trying to stir things up a little bit and keep the position open, which requires a little bit of accuracy from Fabi. Mamedov didn't. Mamedov actually sacked a piece here. So knight bd2, you would just take here. Sorry, this is not very good. He sacked a piece with knight takes e5, and we're going a little bit far, but let's just look at two moves just to see how black can handle these types of positions. And now Caruana played a very wise move. Extremely pragmatic. He did not take on e5, although it probably is better for white. What move do you think keeps an advantage while not...
It's a motive in this position. It's d5.
So not quite, right? d5 weakens the e5 square. You can actually defend f7 while keeping that pawn on d6. And it really is a motive. You defend with this move because this move defends f7, among other things.
Okay, so what are we talking about? Rook h7? Oh, castles?
Just castles.
Castles, okay.
Now you're threatening to take... Whoops, not this one. That was a mouse slip. Now you're threatening to take the knight.
Okay.
Knight f7 is, if you look at this a little bit carefully, is not dangerous. Neither is queen h5. Black simply takes. So Mamedov was just forced to drop his knight back to f3. Well, he did take on f7, which was a mistake. That's a very strange move. After which, I think what he overlooked is that after takes, queen f3, my guess is maybe he thought this was winning a piece, but obviously it isn't. The knight can just drop back, and black is much better here.
For a grandmaster, that's an interesting tactic to overlook, but okay.
Yeah, no, maybe it wasn't that. No, it wasn't that. He played f4. I guess I'm not giving him enough credit. He played f4, but from a distance, anything can be missed. But here, Caruana kept things close with G4, and he's in decent shape here. White does not have enough compensation.
Okay. No, thank you. This motive of keeping the center closed is very, very instructive and very useful.
Yeah, and I'm not that you always want to, nothing is a dogma, but no. Especially when D4 is the response to knight E7, first of all, you want to make sure that you're not playing ED. If you have to play ED, that is a sign that things have probably gone wrong, although you can still follow that up with d5 then later. It doesn't mean you're losing, but that is the litmus test, I would say, for whether you're playing this well.
Okay.
So that essentially is how you handle the move bishop g5. Attempt number 3 by Anna is the sort of more conventional options which bleed into each other, h3 and knight bd2, which gave Anna another win. So h3 in this position, or you can start with knight bd2. So here, and this is the only thing I think that's tricky. In order to maintain consistency, I think what we should do is just play h6 before you castle. Although castling here is fine, but it does allow bishop g5. So I would say play h6 before you castle. And if rook e1, there is a very interesting attempt g5 here, which uses the h3 pawn as a hook to try to start attacking. But I think that, again, to keep things consistent, we can just say castles, which transposes into sort of the main line, knight bd2. And here, among many attempts, there is knight e7, there is rook e8. I really like the practical move, bishop e6. I am partial to this move because the way that most people respond to it is to take on e6 and play b4. Okay, and claim that white is expanding on the queen side and maybe is slightly better. I disagree. Not only that, we have kind of already seen this type of position before, and much of the ideas are shared. Now, I will say disclaimer that I maybe should look at this more deeply to tell you exactly the most precise move. But I think if we follow Nakamura and So, we will not go too wrong here. So Singfield's Cup, Wesley So, who lost against Karyakin in the end, but not because of the opening, played queen e8.
Yeah, okay.
Transferring the queen to the king side. The game continued as follows. Knight f1 by Sergei Karyakin, now knight h5 by Wesley So, all very thematic moves. Bishop e3. He took on e3. Karyakin took on e3 with the rook. And now knight f4 was played. And the one idea that I want to mention, rook b1 was played by Wesley, gearing up the position for b5. And here this was by Karyakin, sorry. So actually played an instructive move to just stop that threat. How can you nip this in the bud?
The b5 threat? Okay.
Yes. It's a very direct way of stopping it, but it actually is quite effective.
Well, I can play b5 myself.
Yeah, you just play b5 yourself. His pawn is a little bit tender, but it can't really be attacked. And Wesley ended up having a better position in just a couple moves. He missed some tactical chances, but but really it wasn't because of the opening. So the game continued. Rook a1. Now there was a very interesting move, d5.
Yeah, I was about to ask.
Yeah, so this would be a good chance to already play it because everything is in place to play d5. Yeah. Everything is protected. The e5 pawn is protected. And if white takes on d5 with the pawn, so this would be a natural improvement over Wesley's play. And 1 second, give me a moment. My computer's freezing up. I loaded too many instances of Stockfish. Sorry, give me a second.
No problem. Take your time.
Can unfreeze. Okay. Just had to close chess space, but yeah. So I think here, well, what do you take with? Why don't we turn this into an exercise?
Okay. Well, I can actually afford to take with a pawn, right?
You can,
but
that's not fine.
But that's not the best move in the position. The best move in the position to take with a knight, and I'm going to collect either the exchange or pawn on c3.
Exactly. So you take with a knight.
Yeah.
And black is in fantastic shape. Okay, so coming back to sort of the tabia, the critical position before h3, you're going to have to give me another moment to just re-input these moves into chess space.
Of course, take your time. Thank you, Daniel.
Of course. Here we go. So castles, bishop a7. Let's see what else Anna played. And this is where we get to sort of the transpositional phase, where you have to realize that white can also start with like knight bd2 and then often transposes. The other move that I think we haven't looked at yet, which Anna did play once, is the move rook to e1. And predictably, how do you think you meet rook e1?
I actually played this position a few times. And I played this against Dina Belenkaya more than once, and I played knight g4 and knight g4 turn, and I played this extremely aggressively. I played knight g4, and then I played f5.
Yeah, that is an idea.
Which...
and that was played against Anna. So h6 was the consistent move that you play, knight bd2. And now knight g4 was the choice, indeed. Was indeed the choice of, let's see who it was the choice of. It was the choice of actually 6 people. One of them was Levon Galoy. So 2,300 played it against Anna. But so it really depends. We can try to make this work. I think that the more consistent sort of safe option would be to castle and to keep things consistent with this particular position. And I think that you can choose. We won't analyze knight g4. You can dig into it yourself for a little while. But I think castles does equalize, and it's the most consistent.
No, the whole plan turned out to be. I got into trouble. It was a little bit too aggressive, too much too soon, and. Anyway.
Yeah, and particular this transposes into the. So remind me what we do in this position, what we've decided on. This transposes to the line that we just looked at.
What we do in this position is we can't play d5 here because we're going to lose the pawn. So what we played bishop e6.
Correct. I really like this move. Takes, and then you're familiar with the host of ideas. Queen d3 here can be met with queen c8. I mean, this doesn't even, you don't even have to play. Now that I think about this, you could probably go queen d7, and if queen takes b7, what do you do?
Let me see, is that queen trapped yet?
It is, but you have to be accurate.
All right, so if I play rook fb8, and then queen a6, and then what do I do now? Well, then I just give a check on the f2, and then bringing the queen.
And that's how you're going to beat it. So basically, we're going to keep things consistent in that manner. So really, the only time that you have to worry about playing, we looked at so 95 here. Let me just input this move. The only time that you have to worry about bishop g5 is here. Bishop g5 being one of the moves. Remind me how you respond to this.
Well, here, because, and I think that rule of thumb is pretty good since we haven't castled yet, it's h6 and g5.
Exactly. And if bishop g3, you just go knight e7 and transfer your knight to g6. Otherwise, the key rule that we have formulated is that you play h6 before you castle.
Yep.
And then the idea of going knight e7, knight g6, while typical, usually if you can, you want to go bishop e6 first and get that structure with the open f-file, because that really puts the pressure on Anna to sort of show that she knows all of the intricacies of this position. And because she is a positional solid player, she can definitely get under an attack in those positions down the f-file.
Yep.
There is one more thing I want to point out. So let's take a sample line where this position occurs. You want to be careful about playing knight h5 before you play queen e8, because white is the idea of going knight takes c5 and exposing an attack on that knight.
Okay.
So that's the one thing that you want to be really careful about. The other thing to watch out for is, of course, that knight e7 is usually met with d4. So that doesn't mean it's bad. We've seen instances where black is fine there. Black is usually fine there. But make sure every time that you're about to move the knight from c6 that you have a response ready against d4, particularly one where black can try to close the center.
Okay.
So does that make sense? Do you have any sort of conceptual questions or questions about lines?
No, this is actually perfect. And just want to greet my dear friend Sepper91. Hey, Sepper, it's very good to see you. And Sepper, please ask the question. About the h6 move, what's the question? Just post it in the chat and we'll ask Danya. All right. No, this all makes perfect sense. I did... if I don't go h6 before the bg5, that's... I think.
So what's the question?
The question is, I know there is a draw line.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the line, there is a line where, like, if for example, if black castles, which is one of the main moves, the reason I'm not recommending this to you is because there is knight takes g5 in these positions, and every time black needs to find a different response to it. And oftentimes the kind of draw that I think Saper might be referring to is Queen F3, Rook H8. And I'm approximating this. This might not be exactly an instantiation of that draw. Queen G3, King F8, Queen F3. There's repetitions to this effect. Again, this line in particular, that's probably not correct, but I'm just giving you a sense of the kind of repetition that can happen. Yeah, but the idea is it's just not worth remembering this, especially when you can just go for this position.
No, agreed.
So,
okay.
So that's really the lay of the land. So unfortunately, Nikola, today I'm on a bit of a tight schedule. I'm going to have to.
I appreciate you
head
doing
out.
This. Thank you.
But this has been awesome. I think we did a pretty good job, all things considered, on this line.
No, this is exact. Honestly, you made me understand this position so much better. I think some of the rules with, h6 before castling and so on, that's all useful. Watch for d4, and don't move. Make sure you don't move the knight from c6 on e7 before you have an answer to d4. It's actually extremely useful, and I'll gladly watch the WOD.
I'm happy to hear that. One thing I'll say is sometimes you can just meet d4 with knight g6, right? Sometimes it can be as simple as that. The e4 pawn doesn't have to be hanging, but yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the sort of main thing you should be watching for.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikola, so much. I'm sorry to keep it
no,
short.
That's fine.
I'm down
Thank
tomorrow
you.
as well.
We'll have tomorrow at 7 or 10, right, or 9:30.
Yeah, so I'll let you know very shortly what time I can make.
Very good.
Just wanted to say, Nikola, again, really appreciate the chance to work with you. And
Daniel,
you're fun to teach. So
it's totally mine. I actually going to stay to stream a little bit. I actually want to show my chat a little an analysis of a game that I played against Anna, team of Anna and Ellie Pacts and
fantastic. Well, I will send you the raid.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Daniel.
And thanks again, Nikola. We'll talk soon.
Yes.
All
right.
So all right, have a great rest of the stream. I'll raid you very shortly.
Thank you. All right. You guys bear with me while I readjust this. Thank you, Daniel. Okay. I'm gonna start a new meeting so you guys can see me here. I'm gonna join with computer audio. I'm just gonna hide Tanya over, and I'm gonna adjust my screen so you guys, okay, we're gonna hide this too, and then you can see me, and then we're gonna continue. I actually really want to show you a game that I played against team of Elizabeth Pacts and Anna. I would like to analyze this with you guys because it's illustrative in a sense that it shows, I think it illustrates what I can take advantage of in the match. So let me just bring that up. Okay, that's probably good. This is good enough. All right, and now let me get the analysis board, and then we can continue. So let's look at the archive. Let's find opponent is Anna _Muzychuk, and I think, all right, chess.com, move, there you go, and you can tell that. Anyway, so let's do the what happened here. Come on. I hate when chess.com does this to me. Hey, injury to insult. Thank you for this. So let's all right, so this is the analysis. Let's go to the analysis board, and I actually want to show this. Hey, GM Taco, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated, and thank you, Daniel, for the raid. That's very, very, very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. We're waiting for analysis board to load, and then we're gonna. And thank you guys for the follow. Thank you, Excastia, Dolphin Invents. Thank you, Seawatch. Thank you, Crying Furball 11. Yeah, okay, and chess.com, of course, decided not to cooperate. Let's see if I can actually use this. Yeah, I can. Nobody cares. Let me just resize this so I can actually show you the analysis board. I played this game on Wednesday, and I actually didn't get the chance to look at it very carefully, so I would like to look at it with you guys. Let me just adjust so we can see the whole thing. And let's look here. Wonderful. Okay, we can bring this down a little bit. And we can start. Hey, Ink KKJ, thank you. Oh, my dear friend Chessie, it's very good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for the sub. Long time, my friend. Very, very long time. All right, so this is a game that I played against Anna, and this is a game that I played before Daniel and I started. So I played a different line than the one I'm gonna play, and it was e4. Let's get this going. So e4, c5. Anna's standard response to c5 is the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6, d4, and this is basically influence of Alipacht. They could transfer this into Najdorf variation. Najdorf variation, I normally play quite a lot of game against as white, and my favorite weapon there is Adam's attack. Adam's attack in this position begins with h3, and I'm reasonably, if you look here, you will see, it's Sicilian defense, Najdorf, Adam's attack. The idea of Adam's attack is to play, as it was played in the game, to play g4, bishop g2, and utilize the... Hey, Omid, my friend, thank you for the host. That's very greatly appreciated. And thank you for the following, KKJ. That's very, very, very greatly appreciated. And thank you, Cheskid11, for the OFM shout out. So the idea of Adam's attack is develop bishop on g2 and then use the bishop to first reinforce e4 and also prevent thematic move d5. So it's actually a pretty strong and aggressive weapon against the against Najdorf Sicilian, and this is my go-to opening in the case that I kind of want to make a win. As a matter of fact, I won a game 10 against Karina Bretsumova in this opening. But okay, so g6 is actually something that Danya shared with me. What Danya is basically saying that h3 and g4 are actually not very useful in some sort of Dragendorf combination of dragon with g6 and bishop g7 and a6 line. And it kind of was proven right. I mean, obviously Danya proved it right against me many times, but it was proven right in this position well. But I'm familiar with this position, and if you look here, and let me see, why is this not, and resource not found. So let's see if we have all right, so we're going to analyze this without the engine. So that's perfectly fine. So g4 is a standard continuation in Najdorf. Hey, String Dog, very, very good to see you. Thank you for the host. That's very nice, and it's very good to see you here. Thank you, guys. Anyway, so after g4, that's bishop g7, bishop g2, and thematic move is h5. You will discover that that's actually considered to be one of the best moves against g4, and this particular engine doesn't have too much depth. And here is, I'm obviously going to play g5. I'm reasonably familiar with this position, but here I have to admit I went astray. After knight fd7, I played, thank you Zafkat for hosting the stream. That's very greatly appreciated, and thank you Chess Lover, it's very good to see you. All right, so after knight fd7, instead of h4, I should have played, instead of h4, I should have played a f4. Frankly, to be honest with you, in the in the fight, I forgot the line, which unfortunately happens. And thank you, Matt Quick Chess. I guess I'm getting hosts all the time. Thank you. Thank you. It's very good to see you guys here. Anyway, so after g5, instead of h4, I should have played f5. And the difference between h4 and f4 is that the e5 is now open for black knights. And that's actually all the difference black needs to turn this into its to its advantage. I think I'm getting so many hosts. Thank you, Monkey Chess. It's very good to see you. Thank you so much. Anyway, so after bishop e3, which is a normal move, and yeah, computer considers the mistake. That's perfectly fine. I am the best line in this. Are we supposed to? Okay, thank you for the host. How many hosts am I getting? It's a host party tonight. Anyway, so I played bishop e3. Hey, Julian, it's very good to see you. I'm showing a game that I lost against the Grandmaster Anna Muzychuk, who is soon to become my mother on Sunday. So I'm showing a game that I lost, which is actually very instructive. So I really needed to play another topical move in this position, which is knight d2. Thank you, Causeway Connor, for the host. That's very greatly appreciated. Knight d5, and this is where the h4 error is telling. Obviously e5 is open. And the problem in this position is that that black has an option of going to g4 and to go to c4. And very bluntly, I did in this position something that sadly I do. Thank you, Sepper, for trusting with me. Indo Queen 1750, thank you for hosting the stream. I think I'm going for the Twitch record of how many, what's the maximum number of hosts a streamer can have. Thank you, guys. That's very greatly appreciated. Anyway, so knight e5, I played f4, which is a topical move, but it's too late. And after knight c4, I made a little bit of a blunder. What I wanted to do was I transposed the moves. I needed to take on c6, but instead of and then play bishop c1, which is actually a perfectly fine sequence of moves. I goofed, and this is why Daniel is telling me that move order is extremely important. So I played bishop c1, which basically is a huge blunder. I took advantage here of the fact that Elizabeth, who was basically the brain in this game, and said, she was playing blindfold, and second, she was also drinking a lot of apple juice, which I think maybe affected her play a little bit. Anyway, so this is a blunder that they didn't take advantage of, or they thought they had an option to do it after, bishop g4. So I took on c6, and I managed to, save a piece. And after bishop c6, I played queen d3, which is a perfectly good move. Of course, Mad Queen, my love, it's very good to have a queen on one side. Thank you, Kasparov94, for the following. That's very greatly appreciated. So after queen d3, all of a sudden, I'm in a position in which, from being in somewhat pickled position, this position is basically equal. And, I have all sorts of, everything is still there to play with. This is, for intents and purposes, a drawn position. And very frankly, the best move that computer recommends, which is d5, is not it's not a human move, because it involves a pawn sacrifice, and basically, it's not likely to be played with by a human. Material is equal. Oh, thank you, Matt Quinn, for the cheer. Very greatly appreciated. It's so after this, knight b6, queen h3, which is not a bad move, but it's a perfectly fine move. If you look here, you will see that by the time it settles down, it's going to be a number 3 option for white. And then takes queen c8, which is a little trick, sneaky attack on the rook, and f5, which is a topical move here, which in this position is the best move. Knight d7, and here is one key position of the game that I like us to just stop for a few minutes and take a quick look. This position is, for all intents and purposes, equal. And if you look closer, you will see that computer agrees with that assessment. White has a couple of options to achieve or to confirm that equality. One option is to basically play f6, and after black collects the pawn and so on, to play queen d6, in which it has some threats on the d file, which kind of neutralize this very strong black's bishop, and some weaknesses on the white side. I should have played here f6, but well, I didn't, because obviously that's one of the reasons I asked Dania to help. My technique here needed left a lot to be desired. Hey, Mad Queen, thank you for another chi. Yeah. Is Mubut sending the... Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop it. I think one of my mods might have enabled it. Sorry, Julian. I'll promise to stop it. Okay. Anyway, that's last 3 seconds. Oh, you like it? Okay, I won't stop it then. Thank you. By the way, there is a clip in the chat that shows how I avoided option against Julian. Basically, Julian, I don't know how to say this, went into deep thought at the very end of completely won position in game 10 against me, and which I then won on time. So that's the way I avoided adoption. Incidentally, so anyway, I'll take it, as I said, then and there. So this is basically an equal position. An equal position here is white has more space, but it has a little bit, this rook is awkwardly placed. He needs to find this f6 resources, and he also needs to find Mad Queen, you need to be a mod. Sepper, if you don't mind giving a shout out to Julian and Mad Queen, that would be, I would very greatly appreciate it. Anyway, so after playing f5, I played a move that kind of throws the advantage, which is basically takes fg6, which is actually a pretty big mistake, because it transpires that opening of the f file, surprisingly enough, it's not very useful for white, and also maintenance of this d6 pawn create an outpost on e5 for black pieces that is going to be hugely advantageous for black. First knight and then the bishop. So in retrospect, I really should have pushed f6 and taken the d6 pawn and then continued to play a normal game. Anyway, so after bishop f4, which is an attempt to stop knight e5, and knight e5 is actually, as you can tell, a blunder, and this proves that international masters and grandmasters can make blunders. After castling, black king would be secure and white king would be under constant attack, and also this bishop is extremely strong. It's basically, for all intents and purposes, is worth a rook, and I would have probably easily been lost. And frankly, from d7, that knight should have gone to c5, which would probably have been better. Anyway, so computer considers this position already lost. I think this is situation, black has a critical advantage, castles, and again, we reach in a position that there is still a lot to play for. This bishop on e5 is a monster. This king on, on c1 is not exactly safe. And it's, but it's a position in which white has a fighter's chance. And fighter's chance will come very soon. And this is one of the reasons I'm showing you this game. Queen b8, obviously, it's a big advantage, and I should have played rook f3 and prevented black from castling, which is what I did for once, a couple of moves too late, but it's still a strong move. And again, this is an equal position. Queen b7, threatening the mate on b2, and b3 is, for intents and purposes, the only move. And then queen b4, which, believe it or not, is a huge inaccuracy that loses... no, not unknown. It was played on the time control was 3+10 because of the hand and brain and the blindfold situation. The reason I am showing you this game is this position. All right, so this is a game. Frankly, this position is very encouraging for me. As and I'm here grasping at straws as far as encouragement is concerned, because in this position, white is winning, or white is very close to victory, because what queen b4 is blundering, if you want, is the main line here, and the main line here is queen a6. And then after, bishop c3, obviously queen c3, because rook on f3 is defending the queen. After bishop c3, there is a little tactical strike here that, after this, white is basically winning because black absolutely has, cannot avoid the queen exchange. And if you count the pawns, you will see that white has 2 pawns up, and I'm trying to delude myself that I will be able to convert it, but also white has a much better position. If you look here, you can this is the attack, b4 is here, and after the exchange of queens, after this is a crushing advantage for white. The rooks are more active, the queen is better, the pawn structure is better, and white should be winning. Well, of course, I would be showing this, and this is not my best losses, is that I actually missed this, and I proceeded to be, I'll spare you the next few moves. Prophylaxis, thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. So after that, I played knight b1, which is one of the moves that appear to defend everything, but it really doesn't. And after queen a5, I played a4, which is perfectly fine move. Incidentally, white is still better in this position. And after rook b4, I made a blunder. And I'll explain what the blunder is very shortly. I needed to first not play queen d2, but I was under the impression that this, for all intents and purposes, would allow me to reposition the rook f1 and then play queen f2, and black doesn't have anything here, and I was under the impression that I'm actually about to start an attack on the king side and maybe even win the game. So the issue here is that as usual, as Daniel mentioned many times during our stream, it's the move order. I needed to play rook f1 first, and then reposition the queen. Why? Because queen d2 has a very strong refutation, and that strong refutation is queen a4. which is what was played in the game. And obviously, a team of International Master Elizabeth Pachts and Grandmaster Anna Muzychuk is going to find it, even if Ellie had too much apple juice and she's blindfolded, and Anna is just basically being a hand. So I was like, what have I done? This could have been an interesting game. And truth be told, I'm basically now completely lost. And after, couple of moves and some precise defense and imprecise defense, and Queen F1 is a mouse slip, but I'm not going to hide behind the mouse slip. Honestly, whether I play Queen F1 or in this position Queen E2, I'm basically hopelessly lost, and it's basically a position that's time to resign. Why am I showing you this? This game. First, this is one game that I actually played against Anna, and it was there fairly recently. But if you look at the game, this game basically, and I'll spare you the details, turned on a few key moves. All of this is standard theory, but yours truly needs to remember to play F4 here as opposed to H4. And if you look at F4, you will see that white actually has a very interesting advantage. A little bit of advantage. And also, this is a position that's very sharp. And I think I'm under the impression that for me, playing against a 2600 Grandmaster, which means there is, according to the USCF, 1,000 ELO points, or if you look at chess.com, there are 600 ELO points difference. I think sharp positions are something that offer my best opportunity to try to do this. Swindle a draw in 10 games. So this, first one note to myself, remember your theory, because I should have remembered this continuation. And the number two, and I'm going to go to the move when Queen B4 is played. If you are given, I need to be able to take advantage of opportunities that this position offered, for example. Hey, thank you, Sepper. I will hydrate. Appreciate it. You redeeming the channel points. And posture check. Okay, I will improve my posture. I don't want a camera to cut my head off, but thanks. This offered a Queen A6 opportunity to basically end up in an end game with 2 extra pawns. And I should have taken advantage of that opportunity. And let me put it this way. What that illustrates that in a 10-game match, I might be able to have 2 or 3 such of opportunities, probably not more, or maybe just even 1. But this is a little bit encouraging, because if I bring to myself to take advantage of it, I think the simple tactics here is that this doesn't work because of about Queen C6. I should be able to, draw or maybe win 1 game. So I ended up being strangely encouraged by this game. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm actually very much looking forward to playing this match against Anna. I think my chances are basically very slim to none, but I'm gonna look forward to it. I want to show you one more game before we adjourn, and that's a game that I actually mentioned to Danya. And let me see if I can find it. It's let me see here. It's in the archives. And I think I played this game against Karina here. Let me see if I can remember it. It was it this game? Let me see here. I think it's this one. Let's see. No, this was, okay, hold on. Yep, this is the game. No, actually, no, I don't think that's it. It's a different game. Just bear with me, guys. I'm sorry. I'll find it in a second. Actually, I'm gonna do an explore game, and I was black, and the game was e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, and then it was knight f6, and it was d3, and then bishop c5, and let's see here, it was c3, and where is this? I played this, and I know I'm not going to be able to find it this way. Hold on. All right. Where is this? Yeah, it's this one. All right. Yep, that's the game. Okay. So if you look closer, this game started as a Ryu Lopez game, but ended up being a slightly similar game to similar motives that one that I analyzed with Daniel. And I'm gonna spare you the details. Okay, so this particular game is basically started as a Ryu Lopez game and ended up with a good old traditional battle of the pawn structures. And no, I'm having a hard time finding the game. I'm sorry, guys. No, that's not it. What it was it again? Was it the game that I played against Dina? Hold on. All right, Dina. Let's see. All right. I actually wanna. Yeah. Okay. And as you guys can tell, Dina and I played quite a lot of games over the years, and I was. Okay, and the result, let's see here, blah, blah. Okay, no. And I was black. Yeah, I think this is this the game? Let me see. Yeah, okay, no, that's Dutch. Let me do advanced search, bear with me. Openings, Italian game, and I was black, and let's see, what? Okay, I'm not having a very good look finding this game. All right, I want to show you one more game that, let's see, so find this, it wasn't against Dina. Let's see, and my games, how do I, okay, so this is a live game, and opponent black, type, no, and let's see here, that's actually too many games in this. All right. Oh, thank you, Anmanqui. Thank you for giving a huge, thank you for giving a gift sub to Unconventional. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. All right, so where is this? Hold on, Italian black match type. It's newest, rated and unrated. Actually, it would be unrated, so let me search that. Let me see what we get here. Blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. All right. Okay. I am not having very much luck finding this particular game. So let me, all are not olive types. It would be Blitz. And I would be black. And let's see here. Chessbra, photo chess, chance, no. All right, my bad here. I'm actually going to show you then a different game that I also wanted to show this. It's a game that I played against WGM Laura Unuk, and I want to, and that particular game, I think I need to go to Lichess and import it, so just bear with me. I'm going to do that very quickly. Profile, games. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Analysis board. And let's grab this. And let's go here. Let's go to analysis. Where is analysis here? I love, okay. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to load this PGN and I'm going to show you this game. All right, very good. So this is a game I played against WGM Laura Unuk on Lichess. And let me close Lichess before chess.com gets mad at me. And I want to, the reason I'm showing you this is that one thing that I really like when working with Dania is that Dania is able to explain to me in depth the logic of the position. In other words, it goes way beyond the practice lines. And I'm going to show you this game because it was against French defense, which I got an inkling that actually might be played in this match. And I want to show you how the game progressed. I'm reasonably familiar with these lines. This is French advanced, e5, and this is my favorite line against advanced French. In other words, I learned that from Grandmaster Hare Krishna Penkala. He has a great chessable course on how to play against French as white. And, you know, I'm really very happy about this, that I discovered this knight c2 position. And the reason why it's such a good position is that after traditional c5, c3, knight c6, f4, if you look closer, white has a very nice, a very strong center that if white manages to maintain the setter, it's not going to, there won't be much happiness for black there. And I have played quite a lot of games in this variation, but, you know, you always learn. And, you know, after a6, which is, you know, actually let me run the report so we can actually do this. Okay, very good. So after knight f3, in other words, you will see that, you know, white is here reinforcing this center. And after b5, which is a normal plan is to play b4. g3 is a traditional move, and it's basically directed until against f6, because this bishop is going to end up on h3, which is going to happen what's going to happen in this game. And after that, you know, it's pretty hard for black to play. Oops, all right, so my apologies. The engine finally caught up with us. It's fairly slow today. And then queen b6, bishop e3, and here is bishop h3. I like this position for white a lot, and I like this whole advantage. I like this whole line. And I played this against my dear friend and coach Anna Rudolph. I played this against Alexandra Botes. I've even played this against Hikaru once, and well, got crushed by Hikaru, who explained to me why I shouldn't play certain moves in a few this. I think bishop h3 provides a very strong motive to prevent f6. The problem is that f6 is not really even interesting here for black. However, this center is very strong. Look at this nice little V or diamond here. So I'd be more than happy to play, as many games against Laura in this position multiple times. But the game didn't go my way, but let me show you it's very instructive. b4 is a normal push, but it's a mistake. And here is why this is a missed vein. I considered myself reasonably familiar with this position and this particular line and this whole setup. However, the best move in this position, and I watched the VOD, and that was a move that Laura was actually worried about and discussed it on stream. Sometimes I wish I would stream snipe, but I didn't. So here is this f5 move. And after f5, you will see that computer is basically, very close to suggesting extreme measures. The best move is to actually sacrifice on e5. Actually, that's technically not a sacrifice, but this is a crushing move. And I did not have that move in my, library of motives in this position. But look why is this so much better for white? 260, 2.5 pawns or whatever. This center is extremely strong. This bishop is sad. This bishop is sad. This knight has nowhere to go. This knight has nowhere to go. And, once white castles, he will have this point of attack. And very frankly, this breakthrough here on c3, d4 is much less dangerous for white because, this pawn and this knight and this bishop basically keep this pawn chain fully controlled, and there is nothing comparable to protect this e6 pawn. The problem here is that yours truly wasn't familiar with f5, my apologies, and proceeded to play a stupid move, which still incidentally doesn't lose the game and maintains a little bit of advantage, which is cb4, takes on d4, which is a very good move, takes the knight, bishop b4, and here is a first indication that the position is not the way it looks, because the only move here, or the best move here, is for the only move that doesn't actually lose a piece or cause a lot of trouble is to basically white has to play king f2. To my benefit in this position, king f2 was actually part of my repertoire that f5 wasn't. So I made that move, and I was I had no problem making it. And then after bishop c5, and then rook e1, which is actually inaccuracy, I should have, a computer wants me to play b4, and after, and if black takes bishop b4, this particular pin will be pretty decisive. White can play rook b1, and basically these cluster of 4 pieces here, even if the knight to b4 will prove decisive, and the pin on b4 against the queen will be pretty bad. Anyway, I play rook e1, wanted to play it safe, and after castle and rook e2 and exchanges on d4, and I will show you this. I ended up in a position which, very frankly, I would be very happy to have against anybody. Especially Laura. I played this against Laura Unuk, who is a Slovenian. She's actually #1 Slovenian WGM, the strongest female player in Slovenia. She is one of the ladies in the Chiquitas. But I ended up mishandling this position, and here is why what was wrong with my calculation. What I needed to play here is I needed to play a4. And the reason I needed to play a4 is that a4 first would dominate this knight. And also it's actually beneficial for white to keep this bishop, keep the light square bishops here, and to keep as many pawns on the queen side, because the pawn on a5, as if you look closer in the position, and I'm actually going to play the top computer line, is actually more difficult to defend than the pawn on b3, which would then be ostensibly weak. First, although it's on the side of the same color as bishop, it's on the light square, it's virtually impossible for this bishop to actually attack it. That's number one. Number two, the pawn on b3 can easily be defended by the knight on d4. And finally, and that's actually another element that I missed in analysis on this position. This king is vastly superior to black king. And the white king can basically take the advantage of these dark squares and go wherever the king wants. And I'm going to just play out this, the best computers lines to illustrate what I have in mind, and just bear with me, And then here you can play rook c5, targeting this particular pawn. And after rook fc8, I can even play knight e6, but I don't need to do that. I can play bishop g4, and you can see how by sequence of very simple moves, white has basically reinforced its position to the extent that it's questionable how this pawn can be defended, and the plan for white is very easy. You can play something like if black plays g5, I can just reinforce my position. I don't need to rush. And basically, I'm going to have a very, very quickly and very soon a crushing position on the queen side. The pawn on a5 is going to fall, and so on and so forth. I have discovered in my studies and preparation for this that I make a lot of blunders during these transitions between middle game and end game. For all intents and purposes, and let me be blunt, I've outplayed Laura in the middle game. Ending up in this position in which, for all intents and purposes, only one person should be able to play for win. I'll take it anytime. But let me show you how I managed to lose this game, because it's fairly instructive. All right, so knight f1, exchange, and with that went out a lot of white's advantage went through the window. Funny thing is that I actually specifically aimed for it, and here, unfortunately, rook c7 is one of the very top moves in virtually throughout the game, or throughout the last 5 moves. But in this position, it's inaccuracy, because after this and this, and I'm not going to even consider knight a8. That particular moves look very I wish I could text thank you. That would have been nice. I don't think she would agree to it. I'm not even going to consider knight a8. That doesn't appear to be like a human move. And don't worry, Sepper, I managed to blunder this game away. But I was under the impression, all right, fine, I'll dump the rook. I'm going to exchange, and I'm going to play knight d4. And look at this. And this is where I get annoyed at myself. I managed to play 2 key moves in this position at the moment where there are inaccuracies. I played rook c7 with it was accuracy, and I played knight d4, all very natural moves, in inaccuracy. And on top of it, here I am now from a position that was basically, for intents and purposes, won for white fairly straightforwardly, or not so fairly straightforwardly. I'm now in a position in which this is a draw. And okay, so I've done knight a7, queen e2, b5, exchange, and this is now a very typically drawn endgame. But watch me lose this. Okay, that's all still fine. This is still should be an easy draw. Rook a2 makes an error, or basically turning an active rook into a passive one. Instead of making that move, I should have just taken on g5 and then play rook g4, which would have been an active move. But instead, I played rook a2, and then after a couple of other inaccuracies, and it's not like Laura even played this perfectly, I ended up in this position in which I am, I'm blundering a pawn, and I'm here completely lost. So, and I'll spare you the details. The rest is not even particularly interesting. And yes, Goran Zaric, Laura doesn't resign that easily. Okay, so why am I showing you this game? I'm showing you this game is for 2 reasons. One, if you guys are trying to figure out a way to play against French advanced, which surprisingly large number of people on Twitch and elsewhere play, especially French advanced. Obviously this is a recommendation for somebody who is not even 2000, so take it for what's worth it. I really like this knight c2 move. It brought me a lot of great positions against very strong players. It got me quite a lot of wins, including a couple of wins against my dear friend and coach, International Master Anna Rudolph. And I think it's a very good system against this. But what I got here is that first, there is an f5 motive in this position. And very honestly, yes, I lost this game, but I didn't lose it in opening, and on top of it, I gained a motive. And by gaining a motive, I'm quite sure Alexander Botes, for example, or Anna Rudolph and I are going to contest this position again, because this is something that I know Alexander, for example, plays. This f5 motive is probably going to get me a victory of 2. And so that's number 1. Number 2, I think yours truly, and I'm already started working on it, needs to have a refresher course of, on end games, and even more than that, when there is a transition between end game and middle game, that's one of my weaknesses that I need to work on. And this doesn't show time. I don't think the time was even a factor. It was 3+2, and I shouldn't have messed this up. Lastly, and I'm already started working on it, I have no business losing this rook endgame, honestly. I mean, if I want to, I actually played king c2, like this position, if I'm not forcing it, it's easily holdable for white. Okay, I can even just keep this rook blocking the pawn, and I can play g4, f5, and so on and so forth. It's it's frankly, it's one of those positions that really there should be only two outcomes: draw and maybe victory for white, or it's a pretty dry draw. I've discovered that I have lost quite a few games, especially in rook endgames, against stronger players, which is one of the reasons they're stronger in positions like these. So one of the streams next week will be dedicated to me trying to figure out rook endgames. And, I'm looking for Averbach and looking for for John Nunn's book and a couple of other things. Probably would be beneficial for me to figure out how not to lose endgames like this. Because let me put it this way, if I have this position against Anna Muzychuk on Sunday, that would be a humongous miracle. And then if I manage to lose this, I'm going to be very salty. Anyway, so, but I think all in all, this is a hugely beneficial loss, because and why on earth am I not playing, I'm keeping the advantage if I play rook a1 here. Hey, Tonto91, thank you for the follow. What am I doing here? Why am I, stop and think, Nikola. Rook a1, I keep the advantage. And, this pawn is going to fall, and then I actually can, I can play for some sort of an advantage. I have a passed pawn, and this pawn is dead. Hey. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you, Goran. That's very greatly appreciated. Yeah, I did. And then that's CB4, exactly right. Anyway, time really wasn't a factor. I had plenty of time. I just don't want to say my technique failed me, but it did. Anyway, bottom line, Daniel and I are gonna have one more stream before my match tomorrow. Daniel is very kind, and this was an extremely useful session and hugely beneficial for me. This is probably going to be sometime around 9:30 tomorrow, and to 9:30 p.m. New York time tomorrow. And wish me luck on Sunday. And now let's figure out who do we want to raid. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna I don't know. The Chess Bra are having their Friday fight night, and I think that's probably the most interesting channel to send you to. And thank you, Goran. Thank you. Text Chess. It's an adoption match. The option match is at noon New York time on Sunday, and please join us for it. It will be between me and Grandmaster Anna Muzychuk. We'll both stream, and the Maria Yemelyanova Photo Chess will commentate. So looking forward to it. Thank you, guys, and let me send you to the Chess Bra. I think they're playing their series of matches on Friday. It's called Friday Night. I think it's Brando the Bully versus Fionketta. I'm quite sure that's going to be that's an interesting match, and I'm going to join you very soon. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Chess Lions. Thank you, Hedgehog. I will see you guys tomorrow, and thank you again for being here with me and Danya. All right, the raid is going over. Bye, Mad Queen. I'll see you later. Okay. Very good.